Yo, what it do, everybody? This your man Dre, aka Dre on Wheels. This is episode 35 of the 1130 podcast, Talk Pro Wrestling. I appreciate you guys joining me back here for a new episode, man. It's a new year, you guys. Happy New Year's. I'm glad you guys joining me back here for a new episode, man. It's 2021. Man, things are looking bright. We're going to have a blessed year, man, and also a blessed year here on the podcast. Good morning, good night, good afternoon to all my listeners all across the world. Shout out to my listeners, Germany, Canada, the UK, all over the States. Appreciate you guys joining me back here for another episode. You dig? If you guys new, and if you're watching on YouTube, you guys don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. Hit that notification bell also so you don't miss an episode. And also, you guys don't forget to follow the 1130 podcast on all social media platforms. But you guys, man, of course, I'm back here on another episode. You dig? This is going to be a very, very fun one, you guys. The third woman here on Talk Pro Wrestling, so it's going to be great. Her name is June Jackson, you guys. She's from Phoenix, Arizona. She wrestled for Soran Championship Wrestling, Arizona Wrestling Federation, and High Impact Wrestling, you guys. So she's doing a lot of wrestling out there. I brought her in this week, and we're going to chat some wrestling. It's going to be real, real fun, you guys. Once again, sit tight, you guys. This is about to be a very great episode. June, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining me here on the podcast this week. How's your day?
Oof, very busy, but that's what happens when you have an 18-month-old. So that's just how it goes.
Okay. That's cool. We're going to dive into a bunch of stuff like that throughout the podcast. Of course, throughout this past week, the news about AEW superstar Brodie Lee, who passed away at the age of 41. You guys, want to dive into that a little bit later on into the podcast. Also get June's thoughts on Brodie Lee or Luke Harper, or whatever you guys want to go call him by. But I was checking out your Instagram. You are a fantastic drawing artist. Can you tell me about that and what inspired you to be a drawing artist?
Thank you. So funny enough, actually, when I was younger, my cousins used to come over and we would all draw. And my dad would take my cousins' pictures and go like, "Oh, these are so nice. Like, let's put them on the fridge." And I'd be like, "Oh, Dad, what about my picture?" And he'd be like, "Oh, like it's good. It's okay." And from that day forward, I was like, I am going to be the best artist that I can become. And I just bunkered down. I used to draw a whole bunch of old cartoons like Dragon Ball Z and Powerpuff Girls. And pretty much I've pretty much been drawing probably since I was maybe about 7 or 8 years old, just as a hobby. I was looking into it as a profession. Like I was thinking of becoming like a tattoo artist, but I followed wrestling more than I followed that. So now I just kind of do it as a hobby and just create merch for myself or friends who ask for artwork.
Okay, cool. That was about to be my next question. And also, do you create your own merch, knowing that you are, a drawing artist? And so since you said yes, that's really cool. What's the reaction that you that you get back from, creating your own, merchandise or, gear?
Oh, people are really receptive to it. People really like how quick I can come up with things. I know I have a lot of people come to me and ask me to do work for them. And sometimes it takes me a while just because when it's myself, I kind of just come up with something off the top of my head and just draw it down and it's easy. When it comes to working with other people, I have a fear of revisions. So I'll draw something and they'll be like, "Oh, that's great. Now change this, change that." And sometimes I catch myself in a revision loop where I'm just doing nothing but revising their pictures over and over again. So I've kind of strayed away from really doing art for other people, but when it comes to my own stuff, everyone seems to really enjoy the designs, and especially when it comes to like my gear and such. I took sewing back in college. I used to live in Virginia for a couple years, and I was taking sewing out there. So I've learned how to make my own stuff, and people seem to like it. I'm really interested in getting into making gear for other people, just eventually when I get the space, because everything's very cramped right now with the little one running around.
Okay, that's really, really cool. I think it's beneficial for wrestlers, who can make their own stuff, and don't have to worry about ordering it and, or it's going to come late and stuff like that. So that's really, really cool. You're a pro wrestler. You've been wrestling for some time. How long have you been, in the wrestling business? And, how did wrestling find you?
So when it comes to the wrestling business, I started in 2011. Before I did sewing, I went to Arizona State University and I did graphic design. And I thought I could get a nice portfolio done and maybe I could go find a wrestling show. And I went on Craigslist and I found this really sketchy ad that was just like, come to this swap meet if you want to see wrestling. And I was like, okay, I'm like 17 years old. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go to the swap meet with my portfolio. But everyone there was really nice. And I started by doing website designs and logos and graphics for people. And then I want to say about 2013 was my first attempt at training to wrestle. I went for like a good month. And then my job, I was doing graphic design work with my job and they couldn't afford me getting injured and not being able to help. So I had to put it on hold and I was still just a fan. I would come help set up the rings. I still did graphics for everything. And then in 2016, my ex-boyfriend at the time, who was my fiance then, we decided that for our wedding, we were going to have an independent wrestling show for our wedding. And in the main event would be us getting married and then
Get out of here.
My current wrestling trainer at the time, him and his wife were going to come out and interrupt us. And then we were going to have an intergender tag team match for the end. So I was like, well, if we're going to do that, we need to learn how to be wrestlers. So I signed up. Thankfully, it was the same trainer from 2013 when I started. So he remembered me. And my ex-fiance at the time, he never really started training. So it was just me going. And I want to say 2 weeks into, not even 2 weeks, it was maybe like, maybe 2 weeks. It was about 2 weeks into training. I was approached by the owner of Arizona Wrestling Federation. And he was like, oh, like, we want you to be a manager. Like you're good talking and all this such. And I did like theater in high school and stuff. So improv and all that comedy stuff came easy to me. And they were just like, oh, we want you to manage. We have a couple of guys. We're going to put you together in a group. So like 2 weeks into starting training, I was already on shows, almost like every show. Then they opened a student show and I was the general manager of that show as well as managing on the other show. And I managed for a good 2 years. And then finally, I got comfortable enough with myself to start wrestling, actually. And I want to say I started wrestling maybe about end of 2017 to 2018, mid 2018. And then I got pregnant and I had to take a year off. But now I'm coming back and then the pandemic hit. So now I'm still kind of sitting around waiting for shows to get back. But I'm enjoying the wrestling part. The managing is easy, but the wrestling part is what I have the most fun with.
Okay, that's really interesting. That's a cool story to tell. Did you grow up, loving wrestling, or it was just a thing that you just got into?
So my brother actually was really into wrestling, especially back with the WWF, WCW wars. He would always go back and forth between the channels. Mm-hmm. And I remember watching him watch WCW, and I saw Hulk Hogan. And for some reason as a kid, I just hated Hulk Hogan. I don't know why, but I saw him and I was like, ew, I'm like, wrestling is stupid and Hulk Hogan is stupid. I'm like, it's so dumb. My brother's like, oh, shut up. So eventually he kind of watched it like a little bit. He fell out of it. I wasn't really into it. And then I want to say about 2005, there was a TV channel called G4 Tech TV. And they had a show called X-Play that reviewed video games. And they reviewed WWE Day of Reckoning for the GameCube. And they were like, oh, it's a good game. It's a good game. And I was like, okay. So I went and rented it and I was playing it. And I was like, oh, this game was like really fun. And I'm like, but there's like people on the cover of this game. And I'm like, it says WWE. I didn't really know what it was. And I was like, let me double check what this WWE is. So Raw just so happened to be going off that night. And I turned to it because I was like, what is this about? And of course, as soon as I turned to it, Hulk Hogan is in the ring posing. And I'm just like, oh, this is what it is. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I hate Hulk Hogan so much. And as soon as Hulk turns around, he gets super kicked in the mouth by HBK, leading into their SummerSlam match. And I was like, I don't know who that guy was who just kicked Hulk Hogan in the face, but I'm like, he is now my favorite wrestler of all time. I'm like, I love this. I need to see this. I ran into my mom's room and I was like, you need to buy me like all of HBK's stuff. He's the coolest guy ever. And you need to buy me SummerSlam. And she's just like, where did this come from? Like, you have no interest in wrestling. And actually to this day, my mom was nice enough to buy me the HBK cross. And to this day, I still have it on my keychain. But yep, I got SummerSlam, and then I just started watching religiously after that.
That's an awesome story. That really is an awesome story, because I do remember that. I actually was watching that moment not too long ago, and actually that SummerSlam was actually here in DC. As growing up, I wanted to go to that SummerSlam bad too, because when they showed the ticker down at the bottom of the screen, and it was like, SummerSlam coming to Washington, D.C., and I was like, Mom, can I go? So I didn't make it to that SummerSlam, but, I made it to my first wrestling event the year afterwards. So, but that's really an awesome, really cool story. Yeah, Hulk Hogan, nah. Shawn Michaels, yeah. So that's a really cool story. Last week here on the podcast, I was talking about women wrestling and how far women wrestling has come. Last year, we seen Becky, Sasha, and Ronda in a triple threat match at WrestleMania, the main event. And we're just starting to see more and more women take over in the industry. What's your thoughts on how far the women has come in wrestling, from bra and panty matches to now TLC matches to Hell in a Cell matches to main eventing WrestleMania? So what's your thought on women wrestling?
Well, personally, how it affects me, I feel like I felt the same way a lot of the current women in WWE felt back watching the product, even in 2005. Like in the video game, they had like the bra and panties matches and like the fulfill your fantasy matches. And I always saw it as like, oh, like that's something for like beautiful model-esque women or Amazon bodybuilding women. And it was just kind of like, oh, there's no place for me in that. Like, there'll never be a place for me in that. And I never had the confidence or thought that I could ever do it, because at the time, when it transitioned into like the Divas Championship, I was just like, it's so feminine. And for a sport that is so intense and just so physical, not a lot of the women who are in it are, super feminine, girly girls. And so it never felt like there was really a place for people like us. And just with the change of, and I want to say the change from what I see definitely in WWE was when they brought Sarah Del Rey in as a trainer for the women. Mm-hmm. You could definitely see an improvement. And there already was really good matches going on. And that was thanks to Fit Finley, because he helped out so much with the women. Yeah. But when they opened up FCW and they opened up the Performance Center and they brought Sarah Del Rey in, she was one of the first women that I saw that I was like kind of thinking to myself, like, okay, like maybe there's a place for me. And I remember one day too, when I was young, I even sent her like a message on Twitter and she like replied to me and I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So I got super excited for that. But just, you could see the quality of wrestling actually being accepted for women, and that people aren't as scared of being upstaged by the women. Because even in independent promotions, you still get told like, oh, hey, like, don't do this, don't do that, because you don't want the guys to get upset if you do too much and stuff. And it's still rooted in some people, but definitely everyone fighting for it and seeing in the big times and in the big leagues how it's being brought to the forefront. It pushes the promoters to stop making the women like a side attraction almost at the shows, and actually giving them the chance and the opportunity to prove that they are athletic, or that they are capable, or that they're just as good as performers as anyone else. And so WWE has been great at the forefront of pushing that. But I think a lot of people also don't realize that. I feel like TNA was the one who really opened the door with the knockouts division by bringing in people like Awesome Kong and ODB, these unconventional looking women who are strong and just as athletic and amazing and able to go in there with the other women. And even having people like Mickie James stop by, or Taryn Terrell or Gail Kim, having them come through, like they really, I think, opened the door and really pushed, kind of including everyone of any body size, of any race or religion. You know, it doesn't all have to be the same person. And WWE is doing great with it, but I feel like people don't give TNA as much credit as they had with the knockouts division sometimes.
Yeah, you are clearly right. I've been catching up on some Impact, and their women's division is looking really good. They also are coming out with a knockouts tag team championship, so that's pretty cool. That's really cool. Another thing another thing I wanted to touch on, because you said you were very interested in it. I had a guest here on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, my man Tyree Taylor, and he was very into intergender matches, and said it should be done more, brightly. You're a fan of intergender matches, and I am too. I seen where AEW tapped in it a little bit by having the women wrestle the men, and vice versa. And not just, the women wrestle the women and the men wrestles the men. But, what's your thoughts on intergender matches, and should it happen more?
I feel like intergender wrestling, in my opinion, I feel like intergender wrestling is a must for a woman coming up in the wrestling world, because Arizona's current issue is that at most there is probably 5 women, including myself, in all of Arizona, who are wrestlers. And when you have these companies open up in Arizona and they go, okay, we're going to make a women's division, you only have 5 women to choose from. So if we've already all fought each other here, then we're already going to fight each other here, and we're going to fight each other here. And it's great and all. Like, I have a friend who wrestles out here as well. She goes by SOS. She started maybe a year or 2 after I started, and we kind of came up in the business together, and we know each other's moves like the back of each other's hands. So when companies want to feel safe, they put SOS and I together, because we're always wrestling all the time, because it's only the few of us girls. But I've had about 3 intergender matches since I started wrestling. And honestly, all 3 of those matches are probably the best matches I've ever had, the most fun matches I've ever had. It's just great to work with other people, because there are so many men. I'll say of the 5 girls, there's maybe like 30 plus men in Arizona who can wrestle. So instead of constantly having the women work each other over and over again, when I actually get to go in there and mix it up with one of the men, and not only one of the men, but one of the men who has in their independent career worked against big names and they've upped their game, when I get to work against someone who's upped their game, then it helps me up my game. When all of the girls, who all of us have come up together, work each other, we're not getting anywhere. We're not learning anything. We're just going through the motions and trying something new here or there, but we don't really have a veteran to sit down and tell us like, oh, try this. And a lot of companies just aren't willing to put down the money to bring in out-of-state women who are veterans, because they normally ask for more than the male wrestlers. And it's just, they don't, and why would I get this one girl when I could get these 3 guys? The promoters think to themselves. And so we get the short end of the stick, and we end up facing each other again and again and again and again. But the companies that are out here that are open to intergender wrestling, especially high impact wrestling, was where I had 2 of my intergender matches. They were pretty much just like, you're a wrestler and you can go, like, just, don't go crazy, like out of the realm of, believability, but, what's stopping you from getting in there with someone else, hold your own. And I've gotten the chance to do that. And it's honestly so liberating. It's so fun. I've learned so much more. And not only have I learned, but I got to work with inexperienced and younger guys who were starting up in the business, and I got to teach them things that I knew. So, at least I could pass my knowledge that I've learned instead of just all 5 of us girls just sharing stories, doing the same thing over and over again. So that's definitely one thing that I'm pushing for, that I look for. That's one of the hardest parts about being a female independent wrestler, is especially when you want to start looking out of state, which companies are open to intergender wrestling. But when you see Impact, and I know it was a big controversy, but when you see Impact willing to do these intergender matches to the point where they're willing to put a championship on a woman, it's telling you that, it's not taboo. Like it's possible, and you can make it to the top being able to do that. And Tessa is as a little poisonous as she can be sometimes. Like, she's still proves when she goes in there, she doesn't like go crazy and like, do like 50 Canadian destroyers or something, but she goes in there and she shows that she can hang with the men. And she was, before everything happened, someone that I really looked up to when it came to intergender wrestling. And I just think it's something that I think people are starting to get a little bit more open to now, but it's something that I definitely want to push. I have thoughts of possibly opening a promotion here myself in Arizona, and one of the things that we are pushing is we do want to open up intergender wrestling for the newer girls who come in, to be able to work with some of these veterans and be able to learn things and just get good matches, especially pull really good matches and pull things out of yourself that you haven't been able to do.
That's really cool. That's really, really cool. If you can have an intergender match with, a partner of your choosing, who would you choose and who would you wrestle?
It'll probably sound super goofy, but if I could like wrestle anyone like of the opposite gender, it would 100,000%. I like. So I actually have two. I have two answers. I have an attainable answer and then a completely impossible answer. But my completely impossible answer is I would love to wrestle Kenny Omega. He is absolutely, pretty much his story it's something that I hold very dear to me, and it's something that like really resonates with me. It was my goal before I settled down and I met my husband and I had my baby. My original goal was to move to Japan and to just work Japan and stay in Japan for the rest of my life. I just wanted to stay in a dojo. The company that he worked with originally when he started, DDT, that is my dream company to work with. I just want to go out there. I want to work with them. And I almost feel like how he feels, where it's like, he likes to have fun. He can be serious, and people kind of look at him as a joke. And I feel like when I come to promoters with my ideas, sometimes they look at me as like, oh, there's no way you can get that over. Like you'll be a comedy character. You're funny. You're jokes. And it's like, well, there's people out there who have been able to get that over, and there's crowds who like that. And Kenny just embodied that. And the fact that he could go from such a goofy company like DDT to just being so amazing in New Japan just like proves that, like, especially Kota Ibushi, both of them, they just both proved that, like, no, like if I have a dream and I want to go out there and I can be goofy, but I can also wrestle, like, respect me as a wrestler. Don't make me a comedy act. Don't, pigeonhole me in a box. Like, I'm capable of a lot of things. And I felt like both of them just embodied that. And it would be a dream to have a match with him. But on a smaller level, there's another wrestler from Japan named Kikutaru. And he resides now in Vegas. And he was a comedy wrestler back in Japan, like pure comedy, pure cheese. And his stuff is just absolutely hilarious. And I steal spots from him all the time in my own matches as homage to him. So I'm hoping that one of the things is, if I do open my own company, I am hoping that I can get Kiku down here and I can have a match with him. Hopefully, that's the goal, because he would definitely be a bucket list person I would love to wrestle.
Okay, that's really, really cool. Just like I was saying earlier, Tyree Taylor said, just similar, just what you said, going over and working in Japan, and a lot of people would like to do that and then take their career to a whole nother level and,
Mhm.
do it. I wish you the best in all that. I wish you the best in all that. 2021 is here. What's some 2021 goals for June in the wrestling business?
Well, I'm hoping to get wow. I'm hoping to get out of state more. My baby's still a little young, so it is kind of hard to find someone to watch him to go out of state. But I am in talks with a company in Denver, so I'm hoping to get to Colorado. And I'm just kind of at the point now where I'm like saving money. I'm like, throw down some money and just go back to the East Coast. When I was in Virginia, I was helping out a company back in Richmond called Ground Zero Wrestling. They closed now, but another company's opened in Richmond. And so I'm hoping to come back over to Richmond, and at least I know I have a place to stay at my stepdad's house, and do some wrestling there. And California, definitely California. It's right here next to me. I don't know why I've been so against California and going there, but I would definitely like to work on getting my name in California, and hopefully getting on hopefully getting enough eyes in California that someone would scout me for Japan. I mean, even my fiance is like, oh, if you want to go for like a couple months and wrestle in Japan, I'm like, go do it. It's fine. So that's the end goal. The end goal would definitely be to getting to Japan for even just a couple months.
Okay, that's really, 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 really awesome. Can't wait, man. Cannot wait. TLC was this actually wasn't this past Sunday. It was the Sunday ago. I want to ask you your thoughts because you said you went watching mostly the current stuff, but some of the pay-per-views. I gotta ask you, what's your thoughts on the Roman Reigns character now that he's now the tribal chief?
Oh my goodness, it is amazing. And I feel terrible because I feel like everyone has been asking for this for so long, because there are old videos of him doing almost a similar character in FCW, and he was amazing at it. And I do understand, I mean, he was supposed to be the big silent one in the Shield, so he wasn't supposed to talk much. And then when he did start talking as a good guy, he was more kind of slapstick, like saying like catchphrases kind of things. But when they just let him go as this character that he is now, I mean, I understand that, when he talks, the boos, come in, but you can feel when he talks like he believes it, and like this is real, and you can tell it's genuine and it's from him, and that's what makes it so good. Like the whole story is so good. Jay and Jimmy and their whole part in it is just amazing. Just and then add on like Paul Heyman on Talking Smack, just constantly berating everyone who
Hmm.
wants a chance at him. It's just a fantastic combination, and especially with Roman being able to speak as well as he is speaking, to have Paul Heyman with him, it's just like double good. So he's doing like absolutely amazing. This is like his best. I feel like this is his best work that I've seen him do personally.
Yeah, you are right. You are currently right. I love it. I love it. I love what Roman Reigns are doing. A fact that I want to bring up to you and just have your thoughts on throughout 2020 and throughout the year was, but right now, currently in WWE, we got the 24/7 champion R-Truth, the tag team champs for both Raw and SmackDown, being the Street Profits and um, the Hurt Business, the new Intercontinental Champion who won it on Friday Night SmackDown last week, being Big E, and the United States Champion being Bobby Lashley, and the SmackDown Women's Champion Sasha Banks, with majority of the champions in WWE right now being African American, and seeing the landscape in pro wrestling with black wrestlers. Impact Pro Wrestling right now, the World Heavyweight Champion is Rich Swann. So it's a lot of change going on. I wanted to ask you, what's your thoughts on black wrestling and seeing, how far it's coming.
I want to say when it comes to that, it's so nice to finally see representation on the big screen, because when it comes to the local level, that is still such a big issue. And I have my trainer, he'll pull me aside and he'll just be like, I'm not trying to upset you, but he's like, I just, I need to remind you that, it's going to be tough out there for you. Just in general, like, people are going to assume things about you. People are going to want to put you, like I said earlier, in a box. They're going to want to pigeonhole you. And, he just said, it's about your talent and what you're capable of doing. And it doesn't matter what you look like and who you are. You should be respected and you should be booked based on your talent and what you're capable of doing. And it just goes to show that, it doesn't matter a person's race. Like, if they're putting in the work and they're getting a response from fans, and they should be given the opportunity to show what they're capable of. And especially Rich Swann, especially with everything that happened to him, the fact that he got to come back to Impact and that they were able to put, their title on him, and give him, a chance after WWE dumped him, it just goes to show what talent they lost. But also, when they originally announced the Hurt Business, I remember a couple of us were kind of like, they're putting all the Black people together again. Like, oh no, they're gonna drop them out. And to see the respect that they're actually putting on the group, and that, it's almost kind of like a revitalization of Shelton Benjamin on top of, these younger people and MVP, getting to speak, not having to wrestle as much. But it's good because I feel like they're finally just realizing, like, and I don't want to, it almost sounds kind of mean, but it's kind of like they're realizing, like, we're people and, like, it's okay. And I know that, like, there might be some people and probably some people in the audience who may not be happy with seeing people of color, have titles or succeed. I mean, even in the independents, there's still that issue, but, it's just to be able to look past the glitz and glamour and be able to just accept the person for their work and what they're able to do. Like, any section of the world could use that. Just, looking, and another thing is it's Hollywood. I understand. It's show business. It is stereotypes. It is looks. But I feel like wrestling is slowly starting to kind of get out of that mindset, and it's becoming inclusive. It's becoming genuinely inclusive to people of genuinely all races and body types and genders and everything. And I feel like wrestling would have been the last person or the last, entity to do that. But we're making changes, and the audience is making changes and telling them what they want, and they're listening. And it's giving opportunities for, like when people talk about Kofi Kingston winning the title and how monumentous that was for, little Black children to look up and go, hey, I could actually win a title. Like, Black people can actually win a title. And people are like, no, The Rock won a title. And it's like, yeah, but that family is very famous. So it's much different when it's just like Kofi, this guy from nowhere, wins a title. It's, it's like, oh, there's a chance. Like, even I remember back when Alicia Fox won the Divas Championship, I was kind of like, oh, I'm like, a Black person's holding the championship. Like, okay, like, all right, that's interesting. So I hope they understand, like, how much they can change the landscape of wrestling on, like, an independent level with the decisions they make. And by allowing people of color to be prominent and not be goofy. And, they didn't turn the New Day into, like, hucking and jiving and being what they could have done to them. They just let people be people, and it trickles down, like trickle down economics. It trickles down to the independents, and it's giving people like me and my friend SOS and, like, us, like, chances to be respected as athletes, and not just, oh, you are a big Black woman, so you must make funny jokes and must make everyone laugh. It's like, yeah, I could do that, but that's not all that I am. That's not who I am,
Exactly. I feel you. That was well said. I really do. We're gonna move on here, you guys, on the podcast. Before we wrap it up, you guys, like I was saying earlier, this past week, the passing of AEW superstar Brodie Lee, known as John Hubbard, former WWE superstar. A lot of people may know him as Luke Harper. What was your favorite Luke Harper moment?
So it's funny. It's actually probably super insignificant compared to other people, but my friend SOS, her real name is Chantal. She invited me to a SmackDown show, and I was like, no, like I don't want to go. I don't feel like going. Like I'm like, we're training to be wrestlers. Like we're wrestlers now. We don't go to shows like unless we're getting booked. And she was just like, come on, like whatever, just like have fun with me, come with me. So she ended up getting us tickets, and we went. And there was a squash match, and in the squash match, there were two guys from our training school who were in there with Rowan and Harper. And we saw them come out because they didn't get the entrance, was doing commercials. And we saw them standing there, and we were just like, it was our friend, his name was Jamie Beechler, and another guy named Ryan Morals. But Jamie, we were closer with, and we were just like, oh my God, is that Jamie? We're like, is that Jamie right there? That's Jamie? And Harper and Rowan came out, and Jamie and them went in there, and they just got whooped. Like Harper and them and Rowan just beat the mud out of them, and we were cracking up, and everyone around us is looking at us like, why is this so funny to them? Like, what is going on? And we were just laughing because Jamie's like he's a little shorter guy, so he was just kind of being thrown around everywhere by Harper and Rowan, and it was just the funniest and like best thing ever that we saw. And after the show, we like text our friend Jamie like, oh my God, like how was it? Like how was it? How was Harper? How are they? And stuff. And he was just all like, oh, like he was super nice to us. Like they were so good to us. And we were so scared because they were just, gonna beat us. But he was like, oh, they were so nice to us the whole entire time, and they treated us so well and stuff. And so like that really like sits with me with just like what a nice guy you are to local talent. Like you don't even have to be. Like who cares? You're coming through Phoenix. You can just go through Phoenix, go to the next state, who cares? But the fact that he went out of his way to make like, and that was my friend Jamie's first time working like extra on TV, and to like go out of his way to make him feel comfortable and take care of him and stuff, and then eventually of course destroy him. But before that, to hear how much he helped him and how nice he was to him, like you don't run into that with talent. Like I've been to shows where talent who were on the shows were just straight up rude and just mean, and they didn't care because you're just an extra talent or you're just an independent wrestler, and like, who are you? You're not on my level. I've been through that multiple times, but to just hear like how much he went out of his way to just be a genuine and good person, like that definitely stuck with me. And it was shocking to know like he passed so young, and from a lung condition and stuff. It just shows you that life is like, I don't want to say life is terrible, but it's unpredictable. And to leave behind his wife and to leave behind his kids so young, it's just like, it really grounds you in reality, and it really reminds you that you really should take advantage of just every hour you have with family and friends, on top of everything happening with this pandemic. To hear that was just, it really kind of brings it home.
Mm-hmm. That was sad. When I first saw the news, actually I saw a picture. A friend messaged me, and I looked at the picture and I was like, I don't really recognize that. So I took another look at it, and the guy looked very familiar. And then at the bottom of the comments, of course, it was All Elite Wrestling, and I was like, oh wow, like this, it was really sad. This past week on AEW, they did a very, very, very cool tribute, in my opinion, for my guy Brodie Lee. The whole, everybody who was in the Dark Order who had a match. It was one-on-one, the women's, the tag teams, they won. And it was a very cool, very cool night. And my favorite part of the night, his longtime partner, he went by Big Red, but Eric Rowan showed up and just went nuts, and I thought it was very, very cool. And the old tribute, at the end, and with his son coming in and participating, and it was awesome, And my favorite Luke Harper moment is got to be with the Wyatt family when they took on the Shield at Elimination Chamber. One of the dopest matches, and just also been, at a SmackDown and being up close to Luke and just hearing how hearing how such of a good guy, he was, and, a family guy. And, so it's real sad, it's real sad. He was young, so I wish nothing but the best for his family and all the prayers with him. You guys, man, I appreciate you guys joining me this week here on the 1130 podcast, Talk Pro Wrestling. Also, I appreciate my guest, June, for joining me this week here on the podcast. Before you go, anything you would like to say, any shout outs or anything?
Definitely. Shout out to Lawrence Tyler. He is my wrestling trainer. He has believed in me since 2013. He keeps me going every time I come to training, and I tell him, "That's it, LT. I'm quitting. I don't want to wrestle anymore." He's always there to pretty much bring me back up and remind me why I started doing this in the first place. And just all the girls and all the trainees at our school. It's Arizona Wrestling Federation here in Phoenix, Arizona. They work so hard and they're so kind to each other. It feels like a genuine brotherhood, and it reminds you of the good in wrestling. And so I would not be wrestling still if it was not for all of them pretty much keeping me going. So.
Okay. That's really, really cool. Once again, I appreciate your time. I appreciate, you coming past, just talking to me. It was an honor. It was a good conversation. I wish you nothing but the best in 2021. You getting booked and winning championships and doing the best, you can do. Once again, did you have fun?
Oh, yes. Thank you. This is my second ever podcast, so thank you.
Okay. That's cool. That's really, really cool. But thank you once again, and happy holidays, happy new year, and thank you for joining me this week on the 1130 podcast, Talk Pro Wrestling.
Thank you so much. You too. You have a good one, you and your family.
All right. Yo, June, I appreciate you joining me here on the 1130 podcast, Talk Pro Wrestling this week. It was a very, very great episode. Very great episode. I wish you nothing but the best. Happy holidays, happy New Year's. Great picking your brain, talking about intergender, wrestling and women wrestling. I had to bring that back up now. This week I had, women on the podcast. You guys, man, I be watching some old school wrestling, and I think I'm in the year 06. I came and started watching wrestling in 1999. So I went back, where I started watching wrestling. Of course, I seen some old stuff also prior to that, I grew up mostly in the WWE era when was like the Monday Night Wars and stuff like that. I made a flip, towards WCW maybe once or twice, but most likely was the WWF. That was me all the way. And watching, and still is, watching these old school wrestling events and wrestling matches and the women every single week. Whether it was Toy Wilson, there was Victoria, Trish. These women are having bra and panty matches, just bra and panty matches. Or pillow fight match. So it tells a lot. How far the woman has come in the world of professional wrestling. From intergender matches. I would love to see more of that. You feel me? Because like she said, you only got 5 women. These 5 women can wrestle each other, but so many times before somebody starts saying, what? I'm done. Come on, for real. So, and there's a lot of women who, really can learn something and test their ability and test, where they at in their wrestling career, or maybe if they, they using it for motivation. Do I belong here? Maybe they doubting themselves and they go out and wrestle a guy who, maybe who's been in the wrestling business for some time now, but, put on a really good match. So Man, I really understand that. So once again, June, I appreciate you joining me here on the 11:30 podcast, Talk Pro Wrestling this week. I appreciate it so much. You guys, man, sit tight real quick. Please sit tight real quick. I'll be right back, you guys, on the other side to wrap it up. Man, it's been a very fun episode. Be right back, you guys, here on the 11:30 podcast, Talk Pro Wrestling.
You have a lot to say. Maybe you've thought, I should start a podcast. Meet Anchor, the easiest way to make a podcast ever. It's a powerful mobile app and web tool that lets you record a podcast anywhere and distribute it everywhere. It's great whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out. And it's 100% free. You can record your show straight into Anchor on your phone, iPad, or the web, using any mic you want. Record alone or with friends or co-hosts anywhere in the world. You can add background music and transitions, and your listeners can send you voice messages that you can incorporate right into your next episode. If you want to produce your show using another app, you can upload your own audio directly from web or mobile, and still take advantage of Anchor's totally free podcast hosting. Once your podcast is ready to publish, Anchor can automatically distribute it to every major podcast platform. That includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, so your listeners can hear your show wherever they want. And on the web, you can see detailed analytics about how people are listening. Plus, you'll get a great-looking profile page where anyone can listen to your podcast or subscribe to it. And if you want to ask your audience to support your work, Anchor makes it easy to collect monthly payments from the people who love your podcast and want to see it grow. You really don't need a recording studio, expensive equipment, or a bunch of technical knowledge to deal with a podcast feed. Just get started and join the diverse community of podcasters already on Anchor. We can't wait to hear your podcast.
Yo, you guys, welcome back here to the 11:30 podcast, Talk Pro Wrestling, you guys. Appreciate you guys sticking with me throughout that quick commercial break. Very excited, man. Very excited. It's a new year, man. 2021 is going to be a blessed one, man. Let's get through this, everybody. Yo, you guys, man, before we wrap it up real quick, shout out to my man, Big E. Yes, last Friday on SmackDown was the highest-rated SmackDown of all of last year, you guys. Yes, Big E winning the Intercontinental Championship for a second time, defeating Sami Zayn. And man, that was a cool moment, cool show also. You know, it's Christmas night. They followed the NFL, so huge ratings for WWE there on SmackDown. Speaking of Big E just keep, running into Paul Heyman, man. Every talking smack, Paul Heyman is, installing some, greatness, in a way into Big E. So I'm really, really digging that, man. Big E's now, Intercontinental Champion. Let's see where this goes. Hopefully, I said this on my podcast on YouTube, you guys, the main podcast. Go check it out. Go check it out for real. My man Gator. I feel as though Big E is going to win the Royal Rumble. Also, Daniel Bryan, he never won a Royal Rumble, a Battle Royal. So, that could be a possibility, which I think is a little later in his career. And the Yes Movement is kind of like passed on by. So, time will tell, man. Time will really, really tell. So, kudos, man, to SmackDown. They doing their thing. Monday Night Raw, you guys, man, ended in a wild one. A really, really wild one. It was really interesting. Alexa Bliss is challenging Randy Orton. Randy Orton is out there. Alexa got gasoline. She pulling all over herself or, in the ring and telling Randy Orton, I'm challenging you. I'm challenging you to light me on fire. I'm challenging you to do exactly what you did to the Fiend. Do it to me now. And, so Alexa, man, as far as she has, come in the wrestling business from being the Princess and Charmy, superstar in NXT, from now just being this, aid in a way to Bray Wyatt, man. It's so good, man. I'm loving everything she's doing, man. She don't need a title. She's like the only one, right now in the women's division right now is really doing good. She's like above water. I think she's way above water. Seeing that she's not even floating, but she's doing pretty good, man. So shout out to Alexa Bliss, man. For real. Shout out to Alexa Bliss. What else we got here, man? This coming Monday, you guys, it's going to be Keith Lee taking on Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. man, I love Keith Lee. I'm pretty sure this match is going to end in disqualification because Shane is going to come out and, ruin that. But I wish they put Keith Lee in a nice little sustainable feud with somebody, where he can get some wins. Maybe he could take a loss or two. But it seems like all the losses he's taking is in triple threat matches. So pretty weird, man. Pretty weird, you guys. Also, you guys, we got New Year's Evil, NXT New Year's Evil coming up this Wednesday, you guys. So that's going down. We got Kyle O'Reilly taking on Finn Balor for the NXT Championship. Also, you guys, man, we got Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez. They will be in a last woman standing match. So that's going to be cool, man. New Year's Evil is going to be great, man. It's going to be great. Also, you guys, man, AEW this past week, man, was off the chain. Of course, the tribute to my man Brodie Lee from everything. Like I was saying with June, my favorite moment was Eric Rowan came out, Big Red, man. I thought that was very cool. And just in a way, and not only that, man, from everybody who was paying, homage to him. From Silva, I can't think of the exact names, but the guy who broke down in the ring after the match, after they won, but he paid homage to him by wearing his ring gear. Lance Archer paid homage to him by wearing Luke Harper's gear from WWE. And shout out to my man, Jake the Snake Roberts, for the clothesline, though, man. Like, that show was just beautiful. Like, it was really, really, really beautiful. And, man. So, shout out to his family. Prayers are with you. And, man, at a young age, he's gone. But, man, you guys, I appreciate you guys sticking with me throughout this whole show. It's been a great show. The chatting with you guys, wrestling. I appreciate you guys joining me here on the podcast each and every week, man. Each and every Friday, dropping some hot fire, talking some wrestling, man. I love it, man. Yes, I love it. Once again, June, I appreciate you joining me here on the 1130 podcast, Talk Pro Wrestling. For real, you guys, stay safe out there. Happy New Year's. All that good stuff, man. 2021 is going to be a marvelous one. But before I go, you guys, man, don't forget to follow the 1130 podcast on all social media platforms, you guys. Follow me on Twitter at Dre on Wheels. Follow me on Instagram at the 1130 podcast. Like the 1130 podcast on Facebook. Subscribe to the 1130 podcast on YouTube. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss an episode. And if you're listening to me on Spotify, make sure you follow me. Apple Podcasts, you guys, man, leave a 5-star review and 5-star rating, man. Trying to get the 1130 podcast up and out there even more. And speaking of trying to get it out there even more, man, I appreciate everybody once again. The stop pass, man. 1.6 thousand downloads, man. I love it, man. Keep on coming back, joining me each and every week here on the podcast, man. So got some good guests lined up here for 2021. So we're gonna try to, kick it off with a bang, man. We already kicking it off with a bang. But once again, you guys, it's your man Dre, aka Dre on Wheels. Appreciate it, man. And I'm out.